MZTV.
Boy, oh boy, the scriptural account of Joseph in Genesis, it is an amazing account, historic account, true story, as they say, of one of the sons of Jacob, who ended up being one of the tribes of Israel. Israel, at the beginning, was the name of a guy. The guy's name was Israel. Well, his name was Jacob at first. God changed it to Israel, and he had 12 kids. And these became the 12 tribes of Israel. One of his kids was named Joseph. His father gave him a fancy coat of many colors. The other sons got monochrome clothing, and they were very ticked off about it. And God gave Joseph dreams. He gave Joseph dreams of glory. He gave Joseph a dream that his father and his brothers would one day bow down to him. And Joseph made kind of the mistake of telling his father and his brothers about it. I had a wonderful dream where you all bowed down to me, and I was great, and you were like these monochrome losers. Ho ho! And they didn't like it. And so one day when they were out in the field with him, they threw him in a pit, and they were thinking about what to do with him. Maybe we'll kill him. Maybe we'll take away his coat. We'll do something bad to this kid because he's driving us crazy. Who does he think he is? He's the youngest. No, he's not the youngest, but he was one of the youngest. Benjamin was the youngest. And one of the brothers, I believe it was Reuben, he planned to go back and get Joseph. He felt kind of bad. One of them had a conscience. One of these 12 brothers had a conscience. One of these other 11 had a conscience. But by the time he went back to get Joseph, some traders had come by, Ishmaelite traders. Never trust an Ishmaelite trader. Remember, it was I, Martin Zender, who told you this. And they took Joseph to Egypt. The brothers were like, what are we going to tell our father? Get this. They killed some animal, dipped the coat in blood, took it back to their father and say, well, it looks like a wild animal got Joseph. Sorry about your luck. Can you believe that? How evil can you get? Joseph goes to Egypt as a slave. He ends up being imprisoned. God was with him. God never forsakes his people. God never forsakes his favorites. Joseph was one of his favorites. And he interpreted the dreams of people that were in the prison. He told them their future, but it wasn't by dark arts. It was by revelation of God. Pharaoh was in charge of Egypt. Pharaoh had a dream himself. It was very disturbing. Pharaoh didn't know what the dream meant. There were cows in his dream. Pharaoh said they were very fat cows. Not fat cats, fat cows. But then there were skinny cows with their bones showing. Very ill-nourished. But the skinny cows, oddly enough, devoured the fat cows. That was the weirdest dream Pharaoh ever had. And he called for all the wise men in his kingdom to interpret this dream for me because this thing was so real. You wouldn't believe these cows. I'm telling you, I need to know what this is. Nobody could do it. Nobody could do it. But one of the guys who'd come out of prison said, wait a minute. There was a guy in prison, Joseph. He told me the meaning of a couple of my dreams. This guy's good. He's good. I recommend you call him. A prisoner? And just look, do you want to know your dream or not? Call this guy. He's good. I'm telling you. He's the real deal. He hears from God. So Pharaoh was desperate, called the guy in. Joseph, being given the wisdom of God, said, well, the fat cows represent years of plenty. Egypt's going to have lots of food, but the skinny cows represent a time of famine that's coming on the land. Pharaoh was convinced that Joseph was the real deal. He said, how do I avoid this happening? Well, during the years of plenty, where you're going to have more food than you need to build storage barns, silos, big grain silos. Put all the extra food you can into the silos for 7 years. 7 years. 7 years of plenty. And then when the 7 years of famine comes, you'll have the extra food. Pharaoh says, I like it. Put this guy in charge. He gave Joseph a robe, gave him a crown, brought him to glory. It was magnificent. By the way, before I go too far, this is a type of Christ. Joseph is a type of Christ. It's perfect. Christ, being the Son of God, comes into this world and he becomes like a slave to everybody. He's the lowest of the low. And yet he's the Son of God. See, Joseph had these dreams where he was great. He was a great, great man. Jesus Christ was the Son of God. But he came into this sick earth, this sick world, disrespected by almost everybody, was not a good-looking man, was not raised in a notable town. In fact, he was raised in a place called Nazareth, which everybody made fun of, kind of like people do with Newark, New Jersey today. And yet Jesus, by his death and resurrection, becomes the greatest. So Joseph then becomes great in Egypt. But what else is Jesus Christ? He's a savior. Yes, he's a savior. Joseph became a savior too. How did he do that? By storing the grain, telling Pharaoh how to handle it, managed it for him, and sure enough, the famine hit, and it hit hard. And everybody all around the land was hungry. Didn't have any food. But they heard that there was a wise man in Egypt. There was a wise man in Egypt, and they had food, and they were selling it at a high price. This is capitalism at its best, supply and demand. If there's a great demand but not much supply, you can jack up the price. And Joseph was an entrepreneur, and he jacked up the price, but everybody came to Egypt to get food from the great man. Well, Israel heard about this too, Jacob, and he sent the brothers of Joseph. This is 7 years later. His father thinks Joseph is long dead. The brothers, Joseph is long dead. But they hear there's a great man, so they go to Egypt to call upon the great man. And Joseph sees his brothers, and he freaks out. He goes away and he cries. It's like, oh my God, my brothers, holy crap. But he doesn't reveal himself to them. Not yet. Not yet. He wants them to feel the heinousness of their crime. He wants to judge them in a way. So he pulls a couple tricks on them. He gives them food, packs them up. They don't know it's him. No. They don't know it's him. Packs them up with food, sends them away. But he puts his cup in one of the sacks of food, sends them away. And after they go, he tells one of his guards, one of the security guards there, go after those guys. You know that there's a guy with a red beard with a blue bag. Stop that guy and say, you stole from the great man in Egypt. No, we didn't. Then you pull the cup out there, bring him back. Okay. The guy says, you want me to do what? Joseph, just do it. I have a plan. Okay, so that's what happened. Brought the brothers back, and they're like, oh, we didn't do it. I swear to God, we didn't do it. We would never do anything like that. What do you think, we're crazy? We didn't steal your cup. But Joseph's trying to teach him a lesson. It's judgment. Remember this, judgment. She asked him, tell me about your family. Tell me about your family. You weirdos. He knows who they are. Tell me about your family. Oh, we have a father, and we had a brother, and so thought he was a big shot, had these freaky dreams. And, he's not alive anymore. Our father was really sad about that. And Joseph's trying to hold back his emotions. It's like, they're talking about him, but they don't know. See? They don't know. Now all the brothers are there, and Joseph reveals himself to them. Oh, it is one of the most amazing things you'll ever hear of, see. Reveals himself. Can you imagine? They freaked the heck out. They said, okay, we're doomed now. This man, our brother that we sold into slavery, treated like crap, he can do with us whatever he wants. We're freaking doomed. You might as well say your prayers. Boys, it's been nice knowing you. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. When Joseph revealed himself to them and they realized who he was, they bowed down to him, just like his dream. His dream came true, came to pass, because it was of God. And they were afraid. And they said, oh, now our brother's going to kill us. And you know what Joseph did? He took them into an underground cavern. He was so angry with them that they treated him so badly. They didn't love him. They didn't respect him when he had these amazing dreams given to him by God. They were jealous of him. He took them to an underground cavern. I'm really going to torture you guys. And he ran them through with spears, with spikes, and he put them over a fire, and he just turned them very slowly. And he called on the powers of darkness to perform a miracle to keep them alive so that they could be forever turning over an open fire on a spit, and they would be screaming and in agony forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But if you know the story of Joseph, you know that that is not what happened. Rather, Joseph embraced his brothers. He cried with them. He hugged them. And you know what Joseph says to him? Genesis chapter 50. He says, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. God needed to send me here ahead of you in order to save many people alive. And they couldn't believe the attitude of this kid. What? And Joseph hugged them, and he embraced them, and he gave them places to live. Pharaoh heard about it. Pharaoh said, what's all this commotion? Joseph said, my family's here. Pharaoh said, give them the best rental properties in Egypt. We're going to wine them. We're going to dine them. He called for a banquet, dancing girls, the whole thing. And the brothers freaked out. But Joseph is a type of Christ. Joseph, having lived many hundreds of years before Christ, is a type of Christ. A Savior. He saves everyone. Starts as the Son of God, goes down to the pit, and ends up being the Savior and feeds everyone. Exactly what Joseph did. Christ's life, the same. In fact, Jesus Christ read the account of Joseph and took comfort from it. Christ had the Hebrew Scriptures when he was on earth. He read Joseph. He read Genesis, and he took comfort in it. And Jesus would have said, I'm in the part now where I'm in freaking prison. I'm in jail now. I'm in the bad part of the story, but I'm going to rise to great power, and I'm going to save people. I'm going to save the world with not physical food, but with living food, living water, living bread. That's the type. Now let's compare this to Christ. We are told by the Christian religion that Jesus Christ is going to turn his enemies over an open fire for eternity. He's going to baste them. He's going to perform a miracle to keep them alive. He's going to strip them naked, run them through with a pole, and turn them slowly to bake over a fire in agony as they scream and cry out, please help us, please save us, please help us, please save us. No, it's too late. This is the sickness of the Christian religion. This is how sick they are. Stay far, far away from them, because Joseph is a type of Christ. Are we to believe that Joseph is better than Christ? He was a progenitor of Jesus Christ. Was he better than Christ? Joseph blessed those who hated him. And we're told that Jesus Christ, the ultimate Savior, is going to curse those who hate him. He does worse than Joseph. He's more vindictive. He's more mean than Joseph. If he doesn't do better than Joseph in the blessing his enemies department, then he's not worthy of the name Savior. And the so-called Jesus Christ they worship in the Christian religion, he is not worthy to be called Savior.